So I'm going to kind of go over what she was going to talk about, which I referred to as a level, kind of the challenges of training and assessing for teamwork. Just as a little interesting aside, the Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning, supposedly the Earth side called him up and they said, what would be the first thing you do if we choose you? And he talked to Peyton Manning, and Peyton said, well, I'd love to come up there and start talking to you about, I would love you guys to send me down the game plan book, and I want to start studying it and get ahead of things. And they talked to Ryan Leaf, and he said, man, I would go to Vegas with all my friends and have a huge party. So that was their assessment tool in deciding. Gladys didn't have any disclosures. These are my disclosures. For this talk, 4 objectives. One is to review key principles related to team training and of healthcare professionals, and then kind of describe methods for assessing teamwork and team performance, and discuss some of the challenges and barriers related to team training and assessment, and then finally summarize potential solutions to overcoming those. So what are the keys for team training? Why are we doing it? Well, one is you do your team training to promote excellence in team performance. And it's clear in the literature that highly reliable teams help promote high reliability in your organization, and that helps with improving safety and outcomes. What you get is you get enhancement in knowledge, skills, and attitudes of both. What you want to work on is both individual team members, and that helps to develop the team. The beautiful thing about training for teamwork is these are individual skills. A lot of them are individual skills that, when applied correctly, can improve team function as a whole. The other thing why you want to do it and what's important about it is it improves safety and efficiency in the environment, and it helps with the organizational culture. And what we're trying to go towards is this generative organization when we're in healthcare, where you look at errors or near misses as learning opportunities, and you have a preoccupation with failure, this idea of trying to find the weaknesses all the time in the team structure or in the organization to help with them. And that's like the near misses we talk about, learning from that. And then I hate the term never events. They're more kind of rare occurrences. You want to try to minimize those. And the idea, again, is to try to create high reliability in your organization. And the final thing for team training, why it's important, is it helps improve patient care and quality outcomes. So you can help improve the outcomes on various levels, both morbidity and mortality, and then you use more efficiently your time resources. So what are some guiding principles related to assessing teams? As Dr. Korndorfer showed, you need to have an accurate assessment tool with evidence of validity in order to be able to kind of understand where the weaknesses are or where you need to work more. So in order for them, what you want to try to do is improve individual acquisition of the key skills and behaviors. So you want to have evaluation methods and assessment tools that can identify those and identify that gap. You also want to improve the work group performance and the outcomes of the group, and so you want to have tools that do both kind of individual-based assessment and also team-based assessment, because the team function actually as a whole might be a little bit different than the individual function, depending upon what the composition is. And the importance of assessment tools, as I said, is they demonstrate kind of needs and improvements that need interventions. So your assessment drives your learning. So how can you assess teamwork and team performance? Well, there are lots of ways. You can do survey methods. Those are really easy to administrate, to give people. It's a little more feasible, and it can promote learning, but the weakness with these is they often rely on self-report. And we know through the literature that self-assessment can often be, people often overestimate their abilities from the fundamental attribute, which is that if I do something wrong, it's because of a circumstance. If you do something wrong, it's because of some personality trait you have. So it can be open to bias. The other way is through observation, but Dr. Korndorfer illustrated that point well. You can have objectively subjective observations, but what we can do, and it's very hard to have objective measures of teamwork, fact, that is almost a little bit of a holy grail. But we do have these behaviorally anchored rating systems that what you try to do is you try to put consistency in terminology, and you link it to reflection and feedback, and then you want to demonstrate that validity and make sure they're reliable. And what's really needed is, since they're observer-based, is you want to have good, lengthy, accurate training of the observers so that we have good reliability. So there are lots of types of teamwork assessments, and these are some examples, and you can read them. Some focus more on teamwork attitudes, some focus on teamwork actual skills, and these are some examples here. The notes is from the UK, and you can see there it measures the kind of the 4 major categories there. And what you would do is you would rate them on a Likert type scale, and they have kind of the some behavioral anchors there on the bottom. There's also the no text. This is kind of difficult to read, but the whole point is kind of how these designs are, where you have the anchors that kind of describe what the exemplars are that you want, describe the Likert scale and how the kind of the differences in those, and then you can rate. Another one, this is a list of various types of scales. As you can see, they're all pretty much Likert type scales or numerical scales with various levels of rating. You can see the OTAS has a 7-point scale, whereas several of them are 3-point scales. And then where you get your sources of validity, this is, Jim would have a heart attack because there's the term face there. Obviously, this is a demonstration of how the literature needs to work a little bit more. So what are some challenges related to team training? Well, so there's always the challenge of trying to make things clinically relevant in the simulation setting, make it as true to life so people can suspend that disbelief. There's the challenge of how you decide when you train individual skills versus team-based behaviors or overall team skills, or if you're going to train the crew, that is a certain discipline, or you do your interprofessional work. And then there's the challenge of linking the assessments and debriefing to the objectives of the case. So in terms of teamwork's assessment, evaluator training is key. You really have to do that observer training so that people can be kind of getting this shared mental model of what the terms are, the taxonomy is uniformly understood, and be able to say, yeah, this is this type of behavior, and have good reliability with that. You also want to be able to, you have to be able to have the evidence of validity. And in the psychiatric literature, they do evidence of validity with every study, and we probably should do that too, because every population's a little bit different. Then you want to link the assessment to immediate debriefing and feedback. So what are some best practices? One, assessment measures, as we said, should be linked to your training objectives. Your tool should be theoretically rooted on the teamwork competencies you're trying to measure. And you want to capture multiple levels of performance. You want to link your scenario events to anchor measurement opportunities. And then focusing on measurements that are observable behaviors or process performance, not just outcomes per se. Training is key, as I've said many times, training your observers. And you want to use assessments to support the debriefings and the remediation. So overcoming the barriers in there, you want to make team training, you want to do it early and often, get them young, start them in the medical school and go all the way through professional development, so we want to culturally ingrain it. You want to go, it's a little small, but the idea is you want to hit at every level in that diagram. And the simulation setting is your foundational training. You want to kind of incorporate that. The experiential learning will people take home things better. In situ incorporation will help you look at systems-based problems as well. And then you want to be able to demonstrate the outcomes effects to both the patient, staff, and system to get buy-in. So thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next.